Hello and welcome to Top TV, talking Severance Season 2. My name is Jordan, and today we are talking episode 7 of Severance Season 2, Chikhai Bardo, written by Dan Erickson and Mark Friedman, directed by Jessica Lee Gagné. Original release date February 28th, 2025, and the official synopsis reads, "An old romance intersects with a deadly present." This episode kind of went the way I thought it was going to go when we were talking last week of reading the synopsis with the old romance intersecting with the deadly present, that we'd get maybe some flashbacks to Mark and Gemma's past, along with maybe him hanging in limbo. We don't know if he's fully reintegrated at the end of the episode. I'm going to doubt that he is, but he is alive. And the other part that I did not expect was actually seeing Gemma where she is now and getting answers to what they're doing in MDR. And I think that's something that we can really dive into today, because there's a lot here. Again, I've seen some people say that this episode was filler or whatever. I think those are definitely the minority, because everything else I see has this as a top episode of television history. And just amazing that this comes off of a directorial debut by Jessica Lee Gagné, who has been the cinematographer for the show, but she has not directed any TV or movies before this. And she came into this episode and immediately directs one of the best episodes of this show. Part of it is her directing. I definitely think, and you got to give credit to Dan Erickson and Mark Friedman on the script, because what they produced was a pretty wonderful story. But just what a way to have your directorial debut. They've talked her up so much as a cinematographer of this show over on the official Severance podcast with Adam Scott and Ben Stiller. So actually seeing what she was able to accomplish in this is great. I haven't had a chance to listen to the official episode yet, but I will later this week. But I'm excited to hear that, because she guest. I think she's a guest on it along with the actress that plays Gemma. So that's going to probably be a good little deep dive into their processes. It's still so early for me to say if this is up there as like my favorite episode of the show or stuff, but I will say that this episode was sensational. I did not think we would get the answers we got in this episode. I think it also helps seeing that history of Mark and Gemma, because they kind of talked about this inside the episode at the end, that that we're a lot of pressure here is on the actress here, who is playing Gemma, Dyken or Deshawn Lockman. She was great in I know her from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but we've only seen her as Miss Casey, who has been very, very robotic, right? Very soft-spoken, kind of, your Audi loves fishing. Like, just very not much to the character of Miss Casey. And now this story hinges on Gemma. Not just the story of Severance, but like the emotional heart of this story is that Mark has severed himself because he had lost his wife in a tragic accident, and she is the inciting incident. That is the inciting incident to go and make him want to sever himself, which has kicked off the events of the show as we know it. So there's a lot of pressure here on the Gemma story, right? Because you have to make her likable. You also have to make her realistic, and in a way that shows us, the viewer, why Mark is so in love with her and wants her back, right? So there's a lot of pressure on that. And I think they did a great job in the flashbacks because the flashbacks are sprinkled throughout. We don't get like I would say a lot there, but there we see their meet cute at the Lumen blood drive. That's right. This is a Lumen sponsored blood drive here. At their college, I believe is where they are. And where they both teach. And he's grading papers, reading dissertations or whatever, and they have a conversation here. But this is their meet cute. And what kicks off their relationship, and it's a very look, we see Mark with like the Parks and Rec style Adam Scott hair with some facial hair as well. He looks a lot healthier, right? When he is Mark Scout, he looks a little bit whether it's the fluorescent lighting or whatever, or the alcoholism, looks a little worse off. This he looks a little healthier here. He's happier here, and it is setting the stage for how they fall in love, and we get to keep seeing their relationship as they fall deeper and deeper in love to the point of where they are having a child. Gemma is pregnant, and even by like a crib, and when she loses the baby, there is I've seen people say it's kind of standard backstory of tragic wife loss and stuff. And that's, this has been done in other shows, but I think the way that they've done it in this show and the way they, portrayed this was very, very great. We don't talk about it a lot, but my wife and I have had losses while we were trying to start a family. And this felt, very real. Very real. We didn't have the chance of being able to really share the good news the way that Gemma does at the table with Devin and Rickon when she refuses to drink and stuff. But, it's still, that first joy when you are expecting, and then the grief that you're dealing with the loss afterwards, and then wondering, will we ever be able to have children? And luckily it's worked out for us now, but it is a tough thing to overcome, and they continue to try. And they even go to a fertility clinic that is, again, you guessed it, sponsored by Lumen, or is the Lumen run facility. And they start going through like IVF treatments. Doesn't really seem to help. And, eventually Mark kind of says, maybe we shouldn't keep trying. Then, of course, we have their last meeting when she is leaving, and he is almost doesn't say I love you. Thankfully he does, but then the cops arrive, and we just kind of get hints of course they're telling him that she's passed. We know that's not true now, right? Like, we knew it before, but there was the people out there with theories that this is a clone, that this is a robot, reincarnate. I don't know. There's been theories out there, right? But though some of those were put to bed last week, I believe it was, when Ragabi tells them that they have people inside the morgue who would be able to handle, giving them fake ashes and stuff. So that was one clue of that. And then also, of course, we see Gemma, and we actually see her where she does remember the outside world and remembers Mark and is asking questions about Mark. So all of that can kind of put to bed that stuff. And I think that's really great that we're getting that this early. So those theories don't continue to crop up, hopefully. Now, here's a question I have. Maybe we'll get into that with the theories. I think we'll wait to get into that with theories. But we do see the Dr. Maurer at the IVF fertility clinic. And we also see her get some like Lumen stuff in the mail, and it is the card that Dylan stole from O&D in season 1. And she says it's not them fighting, it's the Chikhai Bardo, which is of course the episode title here. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we are connecting now. We're going to be able to keep connecting the dots as we go. I like that. But let's kind of go to the testing floor itself here. I have it all split out by different items here. On the testing floor, we have Gemma, who is living on the testing floor. And we see her walk by rooms that are named after the files that MDR has been refining. We see her walk past Cold Harbor, which she has never been in, she said, right? Because it is not refined. We know that. We also see Tumwater, which was one of the rooms, I believe, that Dylan was working on last year. Allentown, we see as well. She actually goes into Allentown. We see that. That is the room that Mark got his cube for. And we also see like Cairns. There is Culpeper, Zurich. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these. Drainsville, we see on screen for a bit. And each of these rooms that she goes into is a different innie of Gemma. So not only is she just severed as Miss Casey, she is severed multiple times here somehow, or maybe the frequency is different. That's a theory I saw. I like that. Because I'm not sure how else you would do like the multiple personalities. So maybe like the brain waves, the brain frequency is different in these rooms. So it's still only the one chip, and it's able to change the personality or the memories. And I'm not sure if this is only possible on the testing floor or if this would be applicable elsewhere. Is this part of what they are testing? All of these multiple severed things, or is it they have one person they're testing, and in order to do the tests, they need to be able to have her severed multiple times because of that? That's a question I don't know the answer to yet, and I think it's something we might have to think on. And it also seems like Dr. Maurer plays a role in these rooms. I think he's the flight attendant in the plane room. He's the dentist in the dentist room. He's the husband in the Christmas room. That's Allentown. And she goes to multiples of these every day. And then afterwards, we'll get questions asked about it, taken to each room by her nurse, Cicely. And they ask her, is there a certain room you're drawn to? Which, again, kind of those questions of them testing the limits of the chip. And it's such a sad existence, not just for Gemma, but for all of her innies, because one of these rooms is always Christmas, which sounds great. But there's tons of books and movies that tell you that's not. And it seems to be the after effects of Christmas, where she has to write the thank you cards, and she has to write a huge stack of them. And guess what? I think she says it's always Christmas or something, right? Like, that means that this innie only goes in there, and this is all she does. And again, I don't think they actually wait once a year for her to do this. I just think that anytime they take her in there, they tell her it's Christmas, and she just always, it's like, oh, it's Christmas again, and has to do it. We have a room that is a plane that seems to be some sort of like flight simulator, almost like it's crashing or a fear of flight type of thing, which is interesting. And then we have the dentist, where she's like, no, I was just here. And they're like, that was months ago. You're here now. And again, I don't know if we can ever believe what they tell us as Lumen. Because even when she comes out, she's like, how long was in there? They say 2 hours. I'm like, most dental stuff doesn't take like 2 hours, right? Unless if she's getting some real major work done. So it's like, can you believe anything they say? No. So they say she's in there for 2 hours. I don't know if I believe that. But, they'll ask her, how many rooms were you in? They make her change in all these different outfits for each room. So It's very interesting. So, if we are to believe that this is what they are doing, each room corresponds to a refining file. Here's my thoughts on that. I've seen this theory going around. I like it. But all of these rooms have kind of been scary or some sort of fear. We learn in one of the flashbacks, I believe it is, that she doesn't like writing Christmas cards. One of the rooms is just this, right? We also have a lot of people have fear of flight, especially now. Fear of the dentist or, pain. Like, how many of us love going to the dentist? Show of hands. Not many, right? Not many people like going to the dentist because it hurts. They're scraping your teeth, they're poking your gums, making them bleed. They're, really digging in there. And then if you have to actually get any work done, that's even more pain, right? Usually they would put you in Novocaine or, some sort of numbing agent. I doubt they're doing that for her here. And they ask her in one of these as well, how do you want to die? Like drowning or suffocating? Which one's worse type of thing. She says drowning. Cold Harbor, of course, is some water. It's cold. We see in the opening credits, which have been littered with references to things throughout this, there is a little glacial lake or icy lake that has a car that is tipping into it. Is that Cold Harbor? Or is that supposed to be what like her accident was like after the tree? Or I don't know. But I think that might be Cold Harbor. And when we get to Cold Harbor, maybe it's her in a car almost drowning. And it's like a fear of death. And maybe, because they say in here to Dr. Maurer, Drummond says, when Cold Harbor's done, you're going to have to prepare to say goodbye to her. Cold Harbor is the only room she has not been to. And we see that MDR is actually being monitored by a group of 4 underneath of them through the monitor. And Mr. Drummond is leading that group. And that the tests are going well. And Dr. Maurer is talking to him. And he's wearing that Christmas sweater before he goes into the Allentown room with her. And another fear here is not just the fear of the Christmas cards or the pain of that, right? It is this mirrored scene here with the I love you too, and them not saying it back and forth to each other, just like before she left. And, Mark says, I love you. So there's a little bit of mirroring with that. And I guess the question is this why Allentown was the room that he was his freshman, what they call it, freshman fluke or something in season 1. He says that like Mark, I think Dylan says Mark was able to find a way to refine something faster or something, and it's changed refining, and that's why he's given this cube. So this is the Christmas room, right, where they don't say I love you too. This is also the Christmas card stuff, right? Is this the reason for his fluke, his freshman fluke? Is this when they discovered having somebody tied to the person in the testing floor is making it faster for them to refine? And are they drawing from his own memories when they're refining? Or is it pulling it from her memories for the refining? That's a question I have here. Or is it because they both have memories of those events that it's making the refining faster? And is the reason why a lot of this stuff is tied to fear or scary rooms because some of those numbers that MDR are looking for are scary numbers when they're putting them and sorting them in the bins. So they're feeling the emotion from the memory while they are refining. Something to think about. Okay. So we have the other group monitoring them. Gemma is told by Dr. Maurer that Mark has remarried and has a kid. This also stings because she was not able to have kids. So it's almost like him telling her he found somebody that can actually do what you can't do, and he's moved on in the 2 years. You know, if that's how long, we don't know if she knows how long it's been. So that's something we don't know yet as well. She's going to knock Maurer out by hitting him with the chair, and she runs up, goes up to the severed floor, but now she's Miss Casey. And Milchick is there and just says, "You better turn back around." And Gemma awakens back in the elevator, upset that she was not able to get out of there. At Mark's house, we have Ragabi and Devin debating on what to do. Devin wants to call Miss Cobell. I think this makes sense, actually. I've seen some people be like, why would she want to call Miss Cobell Miss Selvig? This is the only other person she knows that might know something about Severance other than Ragabi. And she knows that Cobell is no longer working there too. So she might have an axe to grind. Ragabi, actually, with all of her intel, does not know that, and I'm surprised Mark hasn't mentioned this, I guess, because Audi Mark does know from Milchick visiting Devin's house and saying she's no longer employed. But Devin is the one to break the news that no, Cobell is gone. Milchick runs the severed floor. And Ragabi, it doesn't really change anything. She says she was raised by Lumen or by the Egans, right? And this kind of led into some thoughts here. We see her holding like this hospital bracelet thing of somebody that is maybe her mom, Charlotte Cobell. Did she die? And the reason she's so devoted to Kier Egan and have the little shrine and everything is because the Egans took her in as part of the family. Was she like a family friend that they like took in when her mother passed, and or was she part of the school that Miss Huang goes to, and she was kind of adopted or fostered by the Egans and they helped raise her? This is stuff going through my mind here as we try to figure out how Patricia Arquette is going to get roped back into this show, because I don't think she's gone for good. And I think that shows with the way Devin's making these steps. And I wouldn't be shocked if now, I think Cobell wouldn't turn them in, because we saw how she fled at the end of episode 3 when she thought maybe I might not make it out of that meeting with Helena and her bodyguard alive. So she took off. Something didn't feel right. Is she ready to join the resistance? I don't know. Or is she always looking for a way back in? I don't know. But I think it would be really cool if Cobell does kind of flip sides here. She knows how the severed floor is run. She knows their worst secrets. They've not done the best job at trying to keep her happy and engaged. And it might just bite them. It might just bite them. So I would not be shocked if Miss Cobell is the answer here. Something else Devin brings up is that those cabins, and says maybe we can get, which I saw people speculating before, like, hey, maybe they can get any Mark there and do it. But we don't know where the switch is, right? We don't know if it's just like one of the rooms Gemma walks into where the switch just flips immediately for a severed employee, or if they need to do some sort of contingency or something to get it to work. Is it always on? Is it not? That's the type of thing that we would need to know. And that's what Devin is thinking of calling Cobell for. Maybe she would know. Ragabi pretty much says, if you call her, I'm done. And even when she kind of like backs down from calling her, I think she just leaves anyway. Ragabi, look, not a great episode for Ragabi. the last two episodes, not a great one. Doing the surgery, flooding it. She's been living with him and has not really told him anything. She does tell Devin, she does confirm to Devin that Gemma is alive here. So that is a plus, I guess, for Ragabi. But really frustrating if you are Devin or Mark and you can't get this lady to say anything. And she definitely seems like an agent that's maybe more focused on herself and what she wants. And what she wants, I think, is to be the one to crack reintegration and bring them down because of some sort of grudge. I don't know if she actually cares about PD, if she actually cares about Mark. I don't know. But just some stuff to think about here with Ragabi. But Mark does awake and he has tears after dreaming with Gemma and dreaming of Gemma. And Devin asks, where have you gone? And she's we just kind of see this image of her walking in the when they first met pretty much, and it seems to be, I don't know what he remembers, if he's experienced all of those past again, or if it was just all happy stuff for him. But he definitely got to see her again in that way. And now we'll have to see how next week he feels going forward. Okay, so let's get into some theories here. Already shared some. What is Cold Harbor? It looks like or sounds like Gemma's road ends there. Like I mentioned, Drummond says the doctor is going to have to be prepared to say goodbye to her when Cold Harbor is done. We also see Mark is now at like 96% done Cold Harbor. That's finale title is called Cold Harbor. So I think we're getting there some way by the end of the season, which is just 3 more episodes left, 3 more weeks until we have maybe some more answers and some more questions. All of the rooms have been some sort of scary or fears. Is this what they are trying to eliminate from the everyday person? We know James Egan had talked about how, Helena had said in the finale, right, of season 1, they're so pretty, everyone should have one. And he says, with your help, everyone will. Is that what this is about? Is it everyone will have one, not just for work, but maybe, I don't like flying planes. Let me sever myself from that. I don't like giving childbirth, like the senator's wife, right? Let me sever myself from that. I don't like going to the dentist. Let me sever myself from that. Not thinking about the innie whose only existence is getting their mouth drilled in the chair, constant pain, this torture that this innie is going through. Or, hey, I don't like writing Christmas cards. Let me go ahead and have my innie do it. And we see her handwriting awful by the time it gets to this, because writing a huge stack of Christmas cards with no rest. Those are the type of things we're seeing from these rooms. And you have to think all of these rooms are are different examples of this. So is that what the purpose is? Are they testing how many times because what if you're somebody that doesn't like all of this stuff? Are you getting severed that many times? Does it work that many times where you're like, hey, today I got a dentist appointment, my innie's going to handle that. Hey, I have to write Christmas cards, my innie's going to handle that. Hey, I have to do hey, I got arrested, I'm going to spend the night in jail, my innie will handle that. Like, what are these? I have to fly a plane, like my innie will handle that. How much of these can a person realistically do? And is that why they're testing the limits of it? They keep asking her, is there a room you're more drawn to? Is something leaking through here? Was part of the tests not just these rooms, but the wellness sessions, right? Hey, let's see if you remember your husband while he's staring you in the face. Hey, let's see if you remember your wife while she's staring you in the face. Is that part of why Miss Casey was one of the, the wellness center. They got their answers from that, and they closed it up because of the revelation that Mark had, and she's not going back up the elevator for now. So I'll be really curious on how this is going to work itself out. This seems to be the goal. It's not just, hey, we'll create good workers. It's, we can sever you for any purpose possible multiple times, and you will be relying on Lumen for that. And they can have this whole market of things people are scared of or afraid of, everyday things that people have to get done or do, that will instead be done by the innie. Maybe the low price of $100 a month to Lumen. Right? All these things are subscription services now. Is that what it is? Or is it a one-time cost? I don't know. Right? But something I'm wondering is how they market this, how they make money off of this, right? Because once everybody has one, then you have to, there's nowhere to grow, right? So you have to end up doing probably some sort of subscription model for this, or else the chip won't turn on when you ask it to or something. That's something to explore, I think, as well in this, because, of course, Lumen wants to make money, I think, as well. And the thing is that's scary is if it can get out, too, that they can just turn you on whenever they want, like the overtime contingency, then that would be scary. You're like, what if they want to turn me on and be some sort of like Winter Soldier type thing? Not like going and assassinating people, but like in the sense of I'm an agent for them doing something I don't want to do. But instead of code words, it's just a flip of a switch, right? That's terrifying. And I'm never putting some sort of implant chip in my brain at all. I will go to the dentist. I will fly in a plane. I will write Christmas cards. I will do all of that without becoming an agent of Lumen. Did Gemma go willingly, or is this a real accident but she didn't die? That's a question that I think is going to be answered sometime soon. She says she's going out with friends, right? She said, are you sure you don't want to go to Mark? He says, I got to take care of something. So obviously she wasn't going then, right? Or did she know he would say no, and she goes and donates her bodies to science? Or maybe they said it was going to be some sort of study to see if they can get her fertile to have children, or maybe, something else. But that's a big question now, is how did she get there? We see that she's there. Did they stage it? Does she think she was even in an accident? Does she think like, hey, I'm doing all these tests and I want to leave and go see Mark, and they're not telling her how long she's been there, right? Does she know how many days she's been there? It's been 2 or 3 years by now, right? 2 years before the start of the show. So yeah, probably about 2 years still. They haven't gone that far down the line. So I think we know O&D is making the props for these rooms, right? The watering cans, I've seen some speculate because she likes plants. But we don't really ever see her in a room with plants. So I'm assuming that's just they needed watering cans for one of these rooms, or for the, the room where Bert and Irv have met in the greenhouse. But we do see the dental tools that the Dr. Maurer had went and picked up from the O&D. We see him use them in this. So obviously they are using stuff for the rooms. So it is the exports hall, right? Like, instead, before, these people used to take it there and somebody would meet them, I guess, in the elevator and take it down. Now that person comes all the way up, gets it from O&D, goes back down themselves. For some reason. We don't know. I guess another question is she the only one down there? Or are there other people that are related to the other refiners that are needed? Or are they all refining stuff for Gemma? It seems to be they're all refining stuff for Gemma. But maybe not. If she says she's been in every room, then that would be even the rooms that the other people have refined. And I'm assuming, obviously, it doesn't make like the room. What I'm assuming is they get the data from what they are refining, from the people like watching them, monitoring them below, and then they turn all that data and realize, oh, it's this type of situation. Have O&D make these props, and they make the room to fit that mold, and they sever the person, and they have Dr. Maurer playing a role. Boom, boom, boom. Right? I think that's the way it probably goes. This is the big one, I think. How far has Lumen gone to get this set up? So what I ask here is, at their meet cute, where they meet at the blood drive, we see it's Lumen sponsored. We see the little teardrop, water drop, whatever it is, in their logo on one of the canisters or metal, something there, at the blood drive. Did they set this up? Has she always been somebody they're testing on as a real person? Or did they realize these two, for some reason, we have people meet here, and then we're going to have them fall in love, then we're going to take one of them away from them, and then we're going to see how that affects the refining process when they come and sever themselves. Who knows? That sounds like a pretty effed up situation. Wouldn't put it past Lumen. And it's like, but how would you ever account for all those variables to set that up? But just seeing it's a Lumen blood drive makes me think that. It also could just show, hey, Lumen is everywhere. It's Kier, the town. They are part of that town. They are a company town that has their hands in every little thing, including this blood drive, including this fertility clinic where Dr. Maurer works and sees them as patients. So that's the type of stuff that I'm sitting here like, okay, how deep does this go? How deep does this web go? Did they set all of this up and they are playing it out their way? Or is it a happy coincidence and just shows how deep Lumen goes in this town? That they have people everywhere. Not only do they have people in the morgue who can switch out ashes or whatever, they also have people setting up meet cutes or blood drives and making people fall in love. Okay. I've seen some theories as well that the smile wall in the perpetuity wing were from other people being tested in the testing floor with the dentist. I think that'd be interesting, but I don't know if that's what it is. Because that's a lot of people for the smile wall. But hey, maybe that's how many people they were testing before they figured out, with Mark doing the Allentown stuff, that was working on Gemma. And hey, this is the way we have to go going forward. It's making it faster, or it's creating better testing rooms, whatever. Petey mentioned being able to find an apartment that you don't get to leave. I'm assuming this is it. So maybe he had found the testing floor, and that's what he's trying to get out to Mark and convince Mark to reintegrate as well. Doesn't seem like he knew anything about Gemma, it seems, but hey, maybe he did. We don't know yet, right? All right, so that's all of my the theories that I'm seeing. Like I said before, that these rooms are some sort of process to get rid of fear and make like your innies do it instead of you. Cold Harbor might be Gemma's death. It might be related to that drowning question or suffocating question. And how do we get to that? Does Mark figure it out as a fully reintegrated and goes down to the testing floor? I'm assuming at some point they will go down to the testing floor to try to save Gemma. Or does somehow Gemma get herself out of, kind of turning off? Oh, what if we've been introduced to the Glasgow block? What if that's Gemma's way out? The Glasgow block. So it prevents her from turning into Miss Casey when she goes up the elevator. And it kind of mirrors the season 1 finale a bit. But instead of doing the OTC, somebody turns on the Glasgow block for her. And she's able to be going on the severed floor and runs into any Mark and is explaining stuff to. Now she thinks she sees Mark, but it turns out to be his innie. And she has to explain something to his innie, and he has to try to get, through reintegration, maybe get the message out to his outie or something, right? Like, that would be a really cool finale before, or they have to go down there and save her before Cold Harbor happens. But I think that'd be really cool. Her going out, Glasgow blocking, so she doesn't, turn on her chip in any of the things, and she gets out the elevator and gets onto the severed floor and, bypasses Milchick because she knows who she is and, doesn't just turn around the way that he wants her to. And she finds Mark, who's now the innie self, and she has to explain something to him. That would be cool. That'd be really cool. So next week is called Sweet Vitriol, and the description just says discoveries are made. I would assume, if I'm guessing on this, that the discoveries would be something like maybe the innies finding out about the testing floor, or maybe Outie Mark somehow putting that piece together. Maybe through calling Cobell, if Devin still convinces him that's the right way to go. And he decides to listen to that and call Miss Cobell as well. And she does spill because of, like I said, maybe she wants to get one over on Helena and the Egan's, get her revenge. And that would be interesting. I would love to see that as well. There's so many ways that they can take this, but I feel like we're starting to build to the finale now. This was an episode that is really key in not just the character development stuff, but answering what are they doing to Gemma down there? Where is she currently? And does she remember anything? She does. When she is not in those rooms, she is Gemma talking to Dr. Maurer and, seeing, asking about Mark, wanting to go home and see Mark, them lying to her about being remarried and finding, having a kid. I have also seen a lot of people say this made them completely forget about Heliar, and now they're really hard shipping Gemma and Mark again. And this is what's so intriguing about the show. There are times I'm watching the innie of a person, and then you see the outie of the person. The way that they're acting is so distinct that you are, in your mind, you're not even thinking that this is innie Dylan. It's almost like having like twins and being able to tell the difference between the twins, right? Is what that is. When I see Outie Dylan at the dinner table, whatever, talking to his wife, the way that Zach Cherry is playing that role, as well as the context clues that he's outside the house and the premise of the show. But I just know, like, I don't even think of that as being any Dylan. I'm never confused with that. It's Outie Dylan. He behaves differently. Same thing with Innie and Outie Mark. So just kudos to the actors and to the writers for writing these characters differently, for acting these characters differently. They've done a really great job with that. And I want to see Innie Mark and Innie Helly fall in love and be happy. But I want Outie Mark to find his wife, Gemma, and I want them to be happy forever. And that will never, those two cannot coexist unless if they are seriously like, he's my work spouse, she's my work spouse type of thing, where when, Gemma and Mark are happily living at home. He goes off to work, goes down to the severed floor, and meets Heliar, and they're together down there. But ultimately, I think the goal, like I said, is reintegration for everybody and taking down Lumen. So at the end of this show, I would not be surprised if Lumen is done. But the way for the innies to live on outside of those severed floors would be from reintegrating and having part of their personality in with their outie and making them a full person that can have a happy ending. For people like Innie and Outie Dillon, whose wife is currently cheating on Outie Dillon with Innie Dillon, having Innie Dillon and Outie Dillon merge so he has that appreciation of his family again, and she sees the man she married in him again, and they can be happy. Helena folding in Heliar and being able to become a good person instead of the Egan that she is right now. Outie Mark would not just become whole again with Gemma being safe, but also folding in his Innie, who has all of these experiences and is a more happier person. There you go, right? Like, and then Irving, like, if he reintegrates and Bert is not a bad person, or any Bert helps make Outie Bert a good person, then those two can be together. Who knows, Fields? Maybe they're a throuple. Who knows? But I think that's the ultimate goal of the show. I don't know if that's where they'll go with it, but that's where I can see us getting a happy ending. If they want to go down deeper, darker routes, I don't know where that goes. And I'm scared of where that would go. But that'll wrap us up today. So hopefully, look, this was a great episode. I'm really excited to see where we go next week. It's a little shorter of an episode, so it's 37 minutes, which means that is going to fly by next week. So there's that. Let me do some plugs here. I'm still waiting for my library for Mr. Robot. So with the current pace of that, I did run a poll on Twitter, and somebody did suggest covering Paradise next. And I've seen great talk about Paradise on Hulu. So I think what I'm going to do is right after Severance, we're going to dive into Paradise. And when I ever get my DVDs for Mr. Robot as they go, I will document my journey through that as well, and just might hold off on releasing those episodes until a more dead period. If you are a fan of genre storytelling, if you're a fan of Marvel Comics, Star Wars, DC, fantasy stuff, over on our sister show, Soups and Sabers, we are going to be talking Daredevil Born Again this upcoming week. We will be talking about the 2-episode premiere with my friends Ron and Chris. So make sure you check that out if you're a fan of Marvel Comics, or if you're a fan of good television like Daredevil. You know, I just finished season 3 of Daredevil. I'd watched the first 2 when they dropped. I'd watched Defenders. I kind of fell off of them. And then I heard that Daredevil got canceled. I think it was only like a couple weeks after season 3, something like that. And I hadn't had a chance to get around to it yet. And I was like, well, if it's canceled and it has a cliffhanger, then maybe I won't watch it and can just move on. Like, why put time into it if it's done? But don't do that. Daredevil season 3 is probably the best season of the show. It's really good. So I really enjoyed watching that for the first time, and I am all set and ready for Daredevil Born Again. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check us out over on Soups and Sabers on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all of that stuff. Make sure you check that out. We'll be talking Daredevil Born Again over there, which is got great reviews so far that I see. But here on Top TV, we will have Paradise coverage after Severance Season 2. So what I'll probably do, I know that whole show will probably be done by the time Severance is done, but I'll go through episode by episode and release those as I watch them, and just share my thoughts as the show goes, as I go through the show. And then I'll do the same thing for whenever I get Mr. Robot and start that journey. But yeah, so that's about it. Thank you all for watching and listening along at TopTVPod on all of our socials. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time we talk Sweet Vitriol, Season 2, Episode 8 of Severance.